Alright, so here we go. First things first, what you want to do is when you're walking up to your vehicle, you want to make sure that you do an overall inspection. You just want to make sure that you don't see anything that's completely obvious that may be an issue before you take the unit out on the road. Any spills, flat tires, lights that are cracked or missing, windshields, anything that may have been done. A lot of times you may be somewhere and somebody will come and vandalize the equipment. So you just want to do just a visual check as you're walking up to the vehicle to see if there's anything that you spot that could be an issue before you even get going. So first thing first, we didn't see any issues that were major that kind of stood out to me. So I'm going to open the hood and we're going to start underneath the hood of the vehicle with our pre-trip inspection. And I'm filming by myself today, but that's all right. We'll get it taken care of. And inside of here, this is a Freightliner. So inside of here, you'll find the latch to disengage, so you're able to lift your hood. And go to the other side. There's one on each side. So we'll come over here, make sure that this is done. Pop that out, just like so. Then it's got a hinge down at the bottom with the J-hook on it. Just grab that, undo it. Now that you got both sides done, all you gotta do is just take this fender and lift up on it. There we go. I like to start on the passenger side and work my way from this passenger side of the engine compartment around to the driver's side, and then from there I work down the complete driver's side of the tractor, trailer, and back up. So here you want to check your windshield washer fluid, and it's good to kind of know what some of these components are. So DOT, you have to have windshield washer fluid in your in this windshield washer fluid container. So that's good. I'm gonna climb up here. Well, actually I'm probably tall enough, but you want to make sure that your plastic is good, your fairing is good. Check your wipers, make sure it's good, secure, there's no dings, bends, or anything that's gonna cause this thing to malfunction while you're using it. The clearance lights, DOT, you have to have those. So make sure they're not cracked, busted, or anything like that. Later in the inspection, we will be turning these on to make sure that they're all working. I know that they are because I said I just drove it last week and I had to actually have that one replaced. But we'll get to that later in the video. So check this. We're going to check our radiator hoses. We're going to make sure that they're not cracked. There's no frays. There's no hose or anything that's going to cause these things to malfunction while we're driving down the road. Make sure that there's no leaks currently, and we can tell because nothing is wet. Obviously it'd be dark black if it was wet, if there's any leaks. Make sure your clips are good. Your radiator, you want to make sure that your radiator is secure. It's good, there's no leaks. We don't see anything on the ground here, right? So that's good. Your hoses are your turbo hoses. Your fittings are good. Clamps are good. This is for your turbo, guys. This is a turbo here, and this is the airflow, the air duct for this turbo. You want to get as much air in as you can. So one of the main things you want to look at over here is you want to make sure that your alternator is good, and this guy's it's good, it's secure. Just get in there, grab it, tug on it a little bit, make sure it's secure. Make sure your belt is good. You don't want this thing to move any more than 3/4, right? So it's good, it's tight. It's not moving too much, it's not too tight, it's not worn out, there's no frays, no cracks. Your fan is good, it's all intact, it's not spinning freely there. Let's see. So that's what we're gonna do. We just want to make sure that there's no wires that we see that are obviously just messed up. And this is your AC system. Obviously when this thing gets going, you will see some condensation, some water dripping off of it, but right off, you just want to make sure the hoses are good. There's nothing leaking right now with this unit not working, right? Or not operating as far as being turned on with the engine running. So from there, you want to check your frame. Make sure there's no cracks, no defects, no warps, no illegal welding that has been done to try to patch the frame back together. On this particular unit, we don't see any of that, so that's a plus, right? Your bumper guards, everything's good there. Everything's good there, guys. So here, this is your axle, your steer axle, right? Leaf springs, and what we're checking for here is no cracks, no chips missing, no big gouges taken out of it. We want to make sure the integrity of this vehicle is top notch. We don't want any issues while we're going down the road. So you want to make sure that these U-bolts, these shackle bolts, are good in place. This is a bump stop. Some people may call it that. It may have a different name, but what happens is this thing flexes. If it goes too far, instead of having metal to metal, it's got this rubber head, and it would stop here on the frame of the truck. So you want to make sure also that your shocks are not leaking any fluid, any hydraulic fluid. There's hydraulic fluid inside these shocks. You want to make sure it's not leaking. I think we got a little spot here, but that's not of much concern there. That's actually okay. So you just want to make sure your bolts, touch all your bolts, make sure everything is intact. One easy way to tell if a bolt has been loosened or taken off is you could see rust running, or you would see bare metal from it being loose. So that's one clear indicator there, if bolts are loose or have come loose or bagged off. So that's just something to keep in mind. So here we have our brake chamber. Again, we want to make sure nothing's leaking, nothing loose, your bolts are intact. And all of this is your it's what's holding all this front end together, all your control arms, your swing arms, your sway bar, your tie rod ends, all of those things you want to check to make sure that this truck is going to be functional, right? So again, you want to make sure there's no cracks in any of this, and because this is the foundation of the truck. No cracks, no gouges missing, no illegal welds. So we're going to get back here the best I can, look at these brakes, and just want to check out that there's no illegal welds in the rims. That does happen sometimes. Look at your brakes. This is for your ABS, interlock brake system. This wire here, make sure it's intact, make sure it's good. You want to be able to stop. Your hydraulic lines, make sure there's no leaking from your brake chamber. It's good, it's intact, it's not going anywhere. Also, guys, on your tie rod, you have these castle bolts, castle nuts, and you want to make sure that they're secure. This is what ties this passenger rim to the driver's side, and so when you're turning your steering wheel and the steering gearbox and all that moves and move your steering linkage, it's connected to this passenger side, and you want to make sure this is always secure, otherwise your passenger wheel is not going to move. So this is a castle nut, and it's secured with a carter pin, so it's good, it's in place, it's doing what it's supposed to. There's no play, everything is secure and tight there, so we're good, right? So let's go ahead and move over to the driver's side. I'm gonna move over to the driver's side. Again, make sure this fairing is good, this plastic is good, windshield wipers are good, windows good, no cracks in those guys. The reserve, make sure you got coolant in there. So depending on the surface that you're on, your readings may be different. It's best to do it on a level surface, but here at this yard, it's kind of on a slope, so that's that. But you want to make sure everything is secure, make sure your top is on good and tight. R cap, make sure it's on, it's tight. Here's your oil dipstick. So what you would do is you would completely remove this, grab a rag, wipe off what's there, insert it back into the engine, pull it back out, and then you would take your reading. pure water separator. This is a filter here. It's got gauges inside also. They'll tell you if this thing is not working properly, but you don't want to see fluid all the way up to the top of this thing. You don't want to see that, right? So this is your air dryer. Just like I said, we're just looking for frayed wires, loose wires, anything that's that's got dings, cracks, holes, anything of that nature, right? So like I was telling you before, here's your steering gearbox. Here's the linkage, and you see it's all connected down into that tie rod, right? So it's your power steering fluid here, and I know that this is my power steering because if you trace these wires, this hose goes right through here, and it connects right into the gearbox for my steering gearbox. So this is how I know this is my power steering fluid. So you just want to make sure that that's all there, that's all good, it's greased properly. Here on my steering column, or the shaft for it, you want to make sure that there's no more than 10 degrees of play when you move this, and that's good. So you got to make sure the U-bolts are good, they're greased properly, and if you got more than 10 degrees of play, then more times than not you're going to have some U-bolts that are going bad, and you want to have that replaced. You want to have that replaced, guys. So always get under here and check this stuff. Not only is it DOT mandated, but it ensures that you're going to have a safe ride while you're going down the street. I always put myself in the position of what if it's my family riding next to a truck that was not properly pre-tripped or not being properly maintained. And again, guys, a lot of this stuff is going to be redundant because the same thing on the right is going to be on the left, except for a few things that may be on one side versus the other, and you have to go over, and check that. So this video will probably from here on out mainly be on the driver's side. So make sure that your brake chambers are good. Again, anti-lock brakes, make sure it's connected. Make sure it's connected, and forgive me for the angles, guys. I'm trying to do this by myself, and it's a little difficult, but we're gonna make it through it, and we're gonna get better. Make sure there's no illegal wells. I didn't mention this on the passenger side, but you want to make sure that on the wall of the wheels that you're looking for any gouges or any cracks, weather rod or anything like that that could put this tire out of service. Also, you want to make sure that around the rim and the tire, that the seam, there's a tight seal along this bead here. Also, another important thing, guys, when you're checking these things, make sure that you got an even surface across the face of this, the top of this tire. Any cupping or pitting or anything that's signs of uneven wear, you might want to have your shop check it out or whatever. But 430 seconds is what this needs to be per DOT. Front tires, 430 seconds. Get your tire gauge reader, stick it in there, check it out. 430 seconds. These steer tires need to be between 100 and 110 psi. Here at this company, we run them at 110 psi. Outside, again, you want to make sure that the face of this tire is good. There's no gouges, no nicks, running over things puncturing it, hitting the curb or anything. This wheel, you want to make sure that this wheel is good. Check the surface, make sure there's no gouges, anything that would cause this thing to be unsafe, right? Check your nuts, your lug nuts here. Check them by hand. Some of them you'll find that have indicators that'll let you know that if it's been turned or not. This particular unit doesn't have it. However, another good and easy way to tell is if these things backed off, you would clearly see bare metal back here, clean metal, or from the condensation of water, because it is bare metal, you will see rust, rust spots, runs from the rust. So that's just the easy way to tell if these things are loose. But you want to check them, and they should be torqued to 500 foot-pounds, right? And then your hubs, we want to make sure that these seals are good, they're not leaking. If this thing does not have any oil in it, and you run out and it gets hot, it's going to lock up and it's not going to turn. So you always want to make sure that you take this out, check it. Most of these guys, they will have indicators on them to tell you where it's full. So just check it. That way you don't have any problems down the road. So this video will be broken down into different parts. Like the brake system check will be a different part, and the lighting will be a different part, because you also want to make sure all your lights work, guys. Everything that comes on this truck per manufacturer is DOT mandated, right? So you just want to come and you want to check your mirrors. Make sure they're secure, they're not wobbling and gonna fall off. Make sure that there's no pieces hanging off of it, right? Everything has to be clean. DOT wants you to have everything clean. So your glass needs to be clean, your windshield need to be clean. That's why you have to have the windshield washer fluid per DOT. Now, your steps, you're gonna make sure they're secure. That's basically what all of this is when you're doing your inspection, making sure everything is secure, nothing's gonna fall off while you're going down the road. Your air tanks, you wanna make sure that there's no leaks in these guys. You wanna listen for it. Make sure that there's no leaks. All your airlines, secondary, primary, alright? Make sure they're good. DF, this particular unit is on this side. You might find it on some that's on the other side. Doesn't matter, the inspection is the same. Make sure it's secure, make sure it's not going anywhere. All the sensors and wires that are going to it, you want to make sure they're properly secured. Then we're going to go to the back of the truck. Make sure your glass is not broken. If you have your working lights, make sure that they're in place, the glass is not broken. You got your electric plug here, your pig plug, and what I like to do is pull this guy out and look inside of it. Make sure there's no debris or anything that will keep from having a secure connection. Make sure none of the pins are broken inside of it. You want to look here, make sure none of these pins are bent or warped or anything, right? You want to make sure you have a good connection so that you can be safe on the road, have lights, everybody can see you, and you can indicate with your signals and so on and so forth. So here are your airlines, your red, and your blue, your service, and your emergency. Make sure that those guys are secured properly. Your shocks for your cab, your airbags, all of this stuff is ran on the air system. So when we get inside and do our in-cab inspection and the part of the brake inspection, we'll be able to check to make sure everything is being maintained the way it's supposed to with our airbags. But right now, it should be inflated and firm, which it is. And which it is. Make sure your frame is good there. Make sure your shocks are not leaking any oil from them. Make sure they're secure. Both sides, right? Like I said before, most of this stuff is redundant. What's on one side is typically on another. Alright, good spot to go to our catwalk. You want to make sure that this guy's secure. Make sure there's not any holes in it or anything like that. It's going to cause you any problems if you ever have to get up here and walk or anything like that. So you just want to make sure it's secure. I like to use bungees to keep these things down. And some people tell you it's better to have them up off of the catwalk so that they're not rubbing. But since we have this protector on it, that's how I like to have mine. Make sure your steps are secure. Check your frame. It's very important, guys, that you check your frame. You don't want to have any issues with your frame, any cracks, any loose bolts, anything that's holding this frame together. That's the true integrity of this vehicle. So just want to make sure this unit is top notch when it comes to that. A lot of trucks you would not find this set up, but because I'm running a pneumatic trailer, we have to have this blower. So I won't touch a lot on that in this video, but that's what this setup is. That's extra drive line and these different valves and so on and so forth. So normally you would get down underneath and you check your drive line. I don't know if you guys can see it, but you just want to get in there, move it, make sure it's not loose, it's not wobbling. You can free turn it. You shouldn't be able to just reach in there and turn it with your hands. So make sure it's good. You want to make sure there's no cracks, there's no illegal welds or any of that going on with this drive line, right? So your U-bolts, your U-joints, you want to make sure that they're in place, make sure they're greased. If you see inside of there, there's a nipple, that's a grease nipple. So these things are supposed to be greased when it goes in for its maintenance. So you want to make sure all this stuff is taken care of when you're doing your pre-trip inspection. And once you get this down, then you get your system, 15 minutes, you should be able to have it knocked out, a full, complete pre-trip inspection, because you know what you're looking for, you know what it should look like, and it won't take you very long at all in order to do that. So again, just want to make sure your drive shaft is good, make sure your U joints are good, they're secure, they're greased properly. Again, you want to have your fenders. Make sure you got your fenders here, they're secured. You don't want anything that's come off. Anything comes off, somebody gets hurt, that's on you and the company. God forbid somebody is injured or worse, killed. You know, you're going to be reliable for that as the driver for not properly doing your pre-trip. So just check this stuff, guys. Check it. It's very, very important that we check this stuff. So make sure all this is secure. Again, once you get back here, you want to make sure that everything is secure. All of the airlines, your wheel sensors for your speed and so on and so forth. That's what these guys are. You got your hydraulics lines. It's going to go to your brake chambers. You want to make sure that it's all secure, guys. Make sure it's all secure. And this is the end of those hydraulic lines that I was telling you, going to go to your brake chambers. These are your brake chambers. Make sure that they're not leaking. Make sure that they're not loose. Your leaf springs, you want to get down here, make sure your leaf springs, there's no cracks or anything down here that's gonna jeopardize the integrity of these leaf springs, right? Check your bolts, make sure your bolts are tight. Your shackle bolts, make sure they're good and tight. Your shocks, make sure they're good, there's no hydraulic fluid. And it's really easy for us because we haul cement, and a lot of times we get a lot of buildup, so it's really easy to tell if something is leaking for us here with what we're doing. So this is where that sensor connects. See if I can get this turned around for you guys, but this is where that sensor connects. Can't get it, but so you want to check your brakes, check the barrel. Make sure there's no illegal welds or anything like I mentioned before. And sometimes what happens is in between these duals back here, you can have stuff lodged in there. So you want to check. Make sure that there's nothing lodged in between these wheels. Again, same thing as before, guys. Just check. You know, we got a little bit of dry rot, but nothing major. Nothing's going to stop me from being able to run this unit. Nothing's going to cause me to fail a DOT inspection. Just it's really redundant, but it's really important also. Check your airbags. Make sure your airbags are inflated. Right now they should be inflated. If this was not inflated at this moment, it would be something that I would need to write up and have the shop look at before I took this unit out. Again, leaf springs, make sure your bolts are tight. Make sure everything is tight here, guys. Right? All the way around. Then we have a fifth wheel. This is our fifth wheel here. This is the fifth wheel. This is the apron of the trailer. You want to make sure that these guys are married together seamlessly. You don't want to see any daylight between the apron of the trailer and the fifth wheel of the tractor. There should be no daylight. Right? So this particular fifth wheel is set up on an air system. And it's got a piston there. And that piston, when engaged from in the truck, will allow this fifth wheel to move up and down this rail, this carriage, so you can lock it in place where you need it in order to get a better load, have a better load placement. So you also want to check this, make sure that this is all intact, it's secure. Make sure that that piston is in place, it's greased properly, and so on and so forth, right? You want to make sure that that's done. Glad hands, service, emergency, electric. Like I said before, you want to check those. Pull this end of this pigtail out, check the pins, check the male side, check the female side. Take these guys off. Check the glad hand seals. Make sure that they're not torn. If they're torn, just replace them. Carry some in your truck, in your bag with you in the truck, so these can be replaced at any time. DOT. And underneath, get underneath here. Per DOT, the lights back here on the tractor have to work also. Doesn't matter that you're married to a trailer, these lights still have to function as if they were going to indicate somebody and you were bobtail. So when you're doing your light check, make sure that these lights are functional. Very important, guys. I actually got a warning ticket for having one of these guys out. So back here on this fifth wheel, I don't know if you guys can see it, but on the apron of the trailer, there's a kingpin, and it comes down, and the couplers from the fifth wheel are locked around the shaft of the kingpin. There it is. That's how you know that the trailer and the tractor are completely married together. When you see that there's no space in between those shackles. And also you can see back here that there's no space in between the apron and the fifth wheel. There's no space. You can't see any daylight. Again, you want to make sure that this carriage for the fifth wheel is secure. Make sure that the brackets and everything are secure for this fifth wheel to slide up and down and to hold this trailer in place. See all your airlines, everything's good, nothing is hanging, nothing is frayed, nothing has holes, nothing it looks like it's torn or anything like that. So this trailer is good, guys. This trailer is good. Differentials, you want to make sure that there's no oil leaking from your differentials. You want to make sure that your differentials are secure with all the bolts. Want to make sure that they are secure. U-joints, drive lines from the front differential to the back, you want to make sure it's completely connected. And a lot of times this stuff will be done from under the vehicle, but it's just easier for me to do this vehicle for